Welcome to the panel. Topic is maximizing content via mass services. Let me give you a brief introduction to the topic before I introduce the esteemed panel members. Today is the day of the introduction of the iPhone 5. Already fifth generation of the first smartphone that made content really viable over the mobile track. Now, there's a lot of expectations about the revealing of the iPhone 5, so I think that sets a good example. 30% of the phones worldwide, and we're talking almost 5 billion phones in a world of 6.5 billion inhabitants, are smartphones already today. In the Middle East and North Africa, it's not quite as high. It's just about half that, 14%. In terms of usage of social networks, people in the Arab world are actually more active than US citizens in using the likes of Facebook and the social networks that were actually produced in the US. At the same time, commercial activity here in the region in the Arab world in terms of e-commerce is still rather low. When you look at telecom operators, worldwide, you will see that just about 10 to 50%, so a very broad range of the revenues, come in through content already. Here in this region, it's rather on the low end, let's say about 10 to 15%. If you discount the SMS elements, it's probably even less. The rise of the data traffic, and we just heard Fabrizio from Telecom Italia, he was saying that the data traffic was doubling. It's actually more than doubling every year, around about 130% globally. In this region, it's almost 200% growth of data traffic per year. So it is moving, it is there. Let me introduce to you, before I go to the questions and the topics, the gentlemen that we have here today on the panel, and we're hoping to have a very interesting discussion on content and the value of content. I'm very happy that there's a good mix between between someone who's very close to the consumers and the content, and namely in this case, this is the music world, universal music. From the likes who represent Lady Gaga and very, very important musicians, Claudio Spolla, who's actually the Director of Business Development of Universal Music Group here in the region. He has been working in this region for over 5 years, and before moving to Universal Music Studios, he was also with the Bertelsmann Music Group, helping to establish their footprint here in the region. Then we have to his right Philip Nahas, who's the senior or the head of product marketing at Do. So he has the background of a telecom operator and can therefore hopefully enlighten us at both ends on the delivery of the content as much as the delivery of the capacity and the optimization of the capacity. And then we have on the very far right Andrew Hanna, the COO of Viva in Bahrain, very key position, of course, of one of the leading, relatively young startup operators in this region that have put a very strong emphasis on mobile data in their strategy when launching. So I would like to set the scene a little bit with the topic, maximizing content uptake via mass services. What we would like to talk about is a bit, give it a local flavor. So is there any local unique content with value here in the MENA region? Can it lead to, do we have any content applications that could lead to wide adoption? Could there be a global management of a content portfolio? And then optimization of data delivery. So how do you optimize the actual delivery by containing CapEx and maybe compressing the data or finding tiered and smart ways of delivering the data? I would first like to give the round focusing on the perspective of the customer needs before we look at more maybe the delivery of the technology. So looking at the customer needs, how do you see the opportunity for a local, unique, mass market content here? And I'll give the word first to Claudius.
Thank you, Tim. All right, I think for the market in the Middle East, as well for the whole world, the demand for unique and local content as well as international content is huge, and therefore data will grow tremendously over the next years. So as I'm speaking for a music label here, I see that music is very important in all our lives. We hear music every day. It is very important for our emotions, and I think there's a study which says it's even more important than the internet. I don't want to judge on this, but also for other content types like movies, videos, is in our minds as well as applications every day. So what I'm seeing in this particular region is that the demand is very high, but the access is quite still difficult. The market is pirated, we are lacking the right business models and usability, and also a lack of understanding from an end consumer perspective, where we have to educate the end consumer how to access the content, help and guide him on a long-term strategy to access the content. And not just to access it once, but to access it on a long term. One more thing, which I see in the region, that there have been a lot of game services, music services being launched with the operators. I see them pretty much as, we need to have such a service. Yes, we need to generate money from these services, but then they appear as like one-time fireworks, and they're not consistent. And I believe that there is a huge opportunity for operators in the region to establish models for a long term and to access content, to provide content to end consumers. Big companies like iTunes, you mentioned iTunes, they launched the iTunes music service, which also contains applications, only to support the sales of their hardware products, right? Not to generate money. Until today, iTunes is not generating sufficient profits at this pretty moment. The profits that they generate, they put in the marketing of their products again. So I think iTunes is available now only since a couple of weeks, but as well as big services from Amazon, Spotify are not available in the region. There's a huge opportunity for operators to enter those markets and to bundle them with their products. So in essence, the demand for content, mass market, is there every day with each consumer. We just need to find the right models and ways to provide it to the customers and consumers. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Philippe?
Okay, well, as an integrated operator, we look at the market demand from 4 perspectives. We want to ensure that our customers have the quality that they're looking for in terms of content, that they have the diversity that they're looking for in terms of choice, that on top of that, they also have the accessibility to the content so they can find the right content that they're looking for, and that this content finally has the right delivery patterns to them, so as to ensure a good customer experience overall. So to keep it short, we're focusing on these 4 aspects: quality, diversity, accessibility, and delivery.
Andrew, obviously Viva, I think, had a tremendous start in Bahrain, offering data bundles for free, also initially, I think, almost at very low price, and you had a tremendous uptake. What's your experience on the content?
Sure. The truth of the matter is, I think we are going through a stage trying to figure out what to do with content. I think there's very few players around the world who have monetized and commercialized content in a way that makes sense for the market. So we're probably not much different than anybody else. Yes, true that We're using it as a tool, obviously, to drive data and drive demand for data, and it is one of the big drivers for us. But commercializing it is the challenge. A lot of the content is free, and some of the traditional content is moving from traditional media and traditional channels to online as well as mobile. And the challenge we're facing is no different from anybody else, which is how do we take that, how do we make sure that we go after the right segments and commercialize it and make some money out of it. It is a challenge. I don't know if anyone who's been able to address it yet, at least in the region. I could be wrong, but we're no different. I mean, for us, it is a challenge that we're trying to address.
Okay. Maybe staying on this topic that you raised, Andrew, about the feasibility of local content mass application. Most of the content that is downloaded today still comes from Europe, from the US, largely English-driven. How do you see the opportunity? And I'm now going to look at Philippe, because Du has launched one of these sites called Anayu that does have as a mission to compile data with Arabic background. How do you see the opportunity for mass content from this region that would be unique to this region?
Okay, well, so far as we look at the consumption patterns, we see that the regional customers are still going after content generated mainly outside the region. And this is because regional content generators, be they professional or end users, individuals, do not have the right platforms to go online with their content. The Anayu perspective is to create a pan-regional portal focused on content from professionals and individuals alike from the region for the region. Hence, the portal is in 3 languages, English, Arabic, and French, catering to the Middle East and North Africa. And its mission is to provide a local one-stop shop for content and for social networking alike, hence addressing the accessibility part, making sure that we aggregate content into a location where it is easy for the end user to search for and find the right content, and providing a technical platform that is close to the end user, ensuring that the content delivery itself is also of good quality, regardless of whether this content is simple music streaming or high quality video streaming. Hence this. We are also looking beyond Anayu at making sure that the rest of the worldwide content is brought closer into the region. And for that, we are considering several content distribution networks and working with them on bringing their presence to the region.
Thank you. Maybe, Claudius, you can shed some light on this difference between, let's say, a market where content is already largely consumed, even over the mobile path, namely music. So most of the content that's used is either video, gaming, or music. Music is a large portion. You've seen it work in Europe. There are, let's say, there's a significant amount already in the music industry being sold, even though it's relatively small to the normal world or to the bricks and mortar through the online channel. And you are now trying to map a similar success here in the Middle East region. Now, what do you think would be needed to get local, unique or Arab content to fly?
Okay. Well, first of all, I think the Arabic and local content creators, including music labels, are struggling a little bit with the last mile to deliver their content, and especially to let people know and become aware that there is local content in the region. Other Arabic labels are facing a threat from piracy. This is just a quick note on piracy. I think operators and governments are spending a fortune on blocking certain websites from international. On the piracy side, there is really very, very low to protect copyrights in the region. So this is also something when, if I'm an Arabic musician and want to distribute my music, I'll maybe release 2 or 3 tracks for free, but from the rest I want to make money because I want to become a professional artist and content creator. But piracy is like stopping. Now, here we come back again to the business model, because if we say we charge $1 for a track or $5 for a software download, or $10 or $20 for a movie, everything is available on the pirated market with less usability. Now, it is difficult to adopt successful models from Europe, from the US here in the region. What we have done, and as Universal Music, is to enable mobile operators to give just more than just content. And I want to highlight one example with Maroc Telecom, where we created a tariff with Maroc Telecom together, where the details are like 99 Moroccan dirham, you get 60 free minutes and 300 free SMS. And we set the target group, and the goals are to reduce churn and to get to the first adopters. So the idea was to create a postpaid tariff, which sounds crazy, a postpaid tariff for a youth target audience. Now we created this package and addressed it to the parents. It's cost control, and sorry, I forgot, the music on top of that is unlimited music streaming, and videos from MTV are for free to the end consumer. And this package gained a subscriber base within just 2 months of 24,000 postpaid subscribers between 14 and 20 years old. Now, of course, we see if we bundle such a service with a tariff, it seems like that the music comes for free, but it is beneficial for the product of the operator, and I suddenly educate new and first adopters and new target groups how to access content, music, and downloads, and tell them that music has a value.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the more delivery side of the question, and Andrew, you were highlighting how you see the challenges any other operator to make content work. Nevertheless, while you're trying to figure out how to gain the extra revenues, the data traffic is rising by 170+% yearly. Being faced with that challenge of rising data traffic, what are your thoughts and your plans on the business model and the kind of delivery model to cope with that?
Sure. I think this could potentially also lead into a discussion around sort of an OTT and how is this being treated. But the reality of the matter is it's one of the things that we have to figure out quickly, but we also have to live with. Data traffic will continue to rise, and I do see in the very near future that data will overtake voice, and it will be your main revenue stream, and maybe even we end up in a situation where we're giving voice away for free on top of data. Reality of the matter is we need to figure out a charging model that balances the customer need with what's happening in what the demand is as well. Yes, we do own the network, we do own the pipes, but I think we're all, as operators, are very much conscious of moving away from an environment where we are a dumb pipe, and just continuous CapEx and OpEx investment is not something that will make sense for the operators in the long term. So coming up with different charging models that are beneficial to the customer, that make sense for their usage and what they want to do, is going to be the challenge. And I think most operators, if they're not already looking into this, they will probably be looking into it very, very soon. It will come down to an issue of pricing, an issue of how do we configure the architecture, how do we configure the networks, and how do we balance the demand also with the customer needs to stay on our network, do what they need to do, have the right level of service, but for us to get a return on that investment, which is a substantial investment over a period of time. So I think that will be the challenge, just to price it right and balance the demand.
When I'm using my mobile phone today, sometimes when I download even an email, it sometimes gets stuck or it doesn't get through. So it feels sometimes as if there is already a difference in the kind of service, or that maybe another user is being prioritized. I don't know. I'm looking at you now, Philippe. I think you have also, or do, is putting some thinking into how to optimize this delivery. When I download something from Google, the traffic goes out of this country through a gateway in Fujairah, down the submarine cables, accessing the content somewhere in the US, to then go back maybe a similar path or a different path. A lot of money has to be paid here in interconnect fees. So there are certainly attempts to optimize the path to reach the data and for the data to reach the user back by localizing some of the storage. What are some of the ideas or ways how this delivery and essentially the business model could be optimized?
Okay, well, as I said earlier, a lot of the content that is being locally consumed will still be generated and published outside the region. So this will always incur or encourage traffic that is flowing outside of the region, and this will always cause ISPs and operators alike to have a very high internet bill themselves. The reason we are looking at getting content closer to the region is twofold. One, to improve the quality of the delivery of that content and to create more regional content that is stored and distributed locally. And two is to aid the ISPs and the operators alike to reduce their own IP transit or their own internet bill, to put it in lay terms. And the way to do this is to acknowledge that content will always be generated outside the region, at least a large part of the content, and to start looking at ways of bringing parts of that content and storing it and caching it within the premises of the region. And we are looking at two ways of doing this. One, by talking to the content providers and content generators themselves, by walking towards a Google today or towards a Yahoo and asking them to start putting in local caches to serve the region. That helps their own customers have a better customer experience by providing a faster service, by providing a more individual experience in terms of what sort of ads they project, etc., easier. And that is also helping us, the operators, to slightly reduce our own internet bill and to provide a better internet experience to our own customers. On the other hand, we are also talking to content delivery networks. In lay terms, these are middlemen who take content from the source and place it or mirror it in many locations worldwide as close to the end user as possible. And today, be it Du or be it several others, operators in the region, we are talking to CDN providers to come in, put in the infrastructure in our own premises, and ensure that we have high usage content cached locally. Again, as a business model, this becomes interesting once we acknowledge that increasing the amount of content that is cached locally eventually decreases our own internet bill, and we come to terms with these content providers and CDN providers as to what commercial deal we can offer them to host their infrastructure locally.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, as COO of, let's say, an OpCo that is part of a group, a bigger group, Saudi Telecom, that is present in several countries across the region, what is the, let's say, model of working with the group from your perspective in optimizing this delivery? And do you feel like the group access to a group gives you a better leverage than if you were a standalone operator, both in trying to figure out the content as well as the delivery?
Sure. I don't think anyone in this room would disagree that telecoms is a game of scale. So the fact that we do have STC as a parent, although as Viva we are an operating company, it's quite independent with our own board and management and so forth. We do leverage where it does make sense in terms of having back-to-back agreements. And my colleagues in wholesale and enterprise very much work on that in terms of synergies with STC to try to leverage as much as possible of the likes of a Google deal, for example, where we've announced some work with Google in Saudi Arabia, which obviously will be something that we leverage off. So wherever it does make sense for our business and for our local business and our local operations, we will leverage, but it is not something that it's neither imposed nor a given. It has to be where it does make sense. But once again, at the end of the day, it's about building scale. And if that as a group gives us the ability to do so very quickly, then we will do it. So we've announced, we have a number of agreements in the pipeline to do exactly that in terms of bringing content and bringing some of the OTT players closer to the market. And one that we have announced and we've been quite public about as well is with Google, which is something that we're also leveraging off. So wherever it makes sense, yes, we do leverage off the group.
Claudius, the value chain of content delivery is including now more and more different industries, companies, the music and content aggregators, and are having to partner and interact a lot more with telecom operators, with various players. From the perspective of a music company, how do you see the partnership evolving with the telecoms here in this region? And what would you hope for to make this, let's say, a more beneficial ride in the future, such that partners could come together that would make this more of a win-win situation?
Yeah. Well, we as Universal Music were the last big major label to come to the region. So we only opened our office beginning of this year. We very carefully looked into the region, and our presence here is on a long-term and strategic level, especially when it comes to operators. Now, yes, any content aggregator, any new media portal can license our content. And also every operator can get a content agreement from us. But we tend to go into long-term partnerships, whereas we bundle with the products of an operator and measure together the success of a music proposition together with a SIM card, a prepaid bolt-on value packs, or also like giving with broadband USB 3G sticks music for free and make customers upgrade and increase the ARPU. Then we get together figures of the success, and this is what we settled on also in other countries in the world, so we can prove the success that content will increase ARPU and reduce churn. Now, especially to reduce churn and to establish nice and beneficial partnerships, we also believe that it's not just the content delivery. This is just one small part of a partnership. In a partnership, we bring in also local content, so we help sourcing and generating content, bring in other major labels to have a compelling portfolio, not just one Arabic label or one international label. But on a second level, we want to exceed this partnership and communicate in charge of the operator with the media consumer on a weekly and monthly basis, giving assets such as free CDs, T-shirts, user experience, showcases with an artist coming in twice a year, signing sessions, meet and greets. I really believe, and this together always with local Arabic content creators, and also together with international artists, help pretty much to give an operator a competitive advantage, a unique offering, and also a very progressive and innovative picture in the whole region. So these are two important things. One is being measured and drive customer acquisition, increase ARPU and reduce churn on a measurable level by content and content services and content clubs, and also drive to give a competitive and exclusive proposition to an operator. So coming back to the question that was before, there are two examples which I want to highlight. One is a very smart IVR service, which you can get from different service providers. IVR services are hosted locally, as you know, and so everyone can manage a playlist which is not very high on data traffic on a mobile phone with an application or on an internet website. And then people, they manage their playlist and also listen to the music on the internet and on the mobile phone. And when they leave their home, they can dial in this IVR to listen to the music, plug in loudspeakers. And this is like a phone call that is open. And these are very, very interesting ways to reduce data traffic, as well as video services. Do has a wonderful video on demand service that is integrated with music videos. So here also the next evolution is to have customized video playlists. So instead of people going on YouTube, which is very, very high on data consumption, people can manage their own video playlists and consume it on their computers, mobiles, and TVs.
We have only a few minutes left, so I would like to take just one more round and hear from each of you. If you put yourself into the future, 5 years from now, name the top 3 content applications used in this region. So the kind of Middle East, North Africa region, in 5 years, what will be the top 3 applications? Starting with you, Andrew.
If I knew the answer, I'd be a billionaire. I have no idea, and I'd rather not. To be honest, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a top 3. I think it'll be a top 30, a top 300. I think there'll be a whole heap. I just hope it's not Angry Birds for whatever the content, if that's considered as content. I don't know. I think it'll be a combination of some traditional media that has moved into the mobile or online in one way or another. But I honestly don't know. And I think that's the challenge that we face, but it's also a little bit of the excitement that we have coming up to be able to figure that and decide which ones are we going to go after, or do we go after everything and hope that we make incremental, returns out of each, but hopefully as a whole, they all add up. So I just don't think it will come down to a top few. I think it'll be many, if I could say, that, but figure it out after that. Okay. Just be ready for it, that's all.
Yep. Philippe?
Well, I cannot guess any further than Andrew on this one. One thing I can say is that we see everything converging to the web today. We see cloud applications starting to pick up, and that will drive more traffic towards that. We see multi-screen video and multimedia picking up, and that means that more of the video traffic that we have on dedicated TV networks will eventually be diverted towards the internet. We see gaming picking up quite a bit on both fixed and mobile channels. And here's Angry Bird for you. So we think that all in all, we cannot name top 3 applications, but I can be sure that a lot of applications are going to add up to the existing stack that is already being delivered over the internet.
Thank you. I'm sure Claudius will have an opinion, though.
Interesting question, and we're here to find out, right? So I think cloud services are very important in the future. So the ideal service would be like I have my little basket of rights that I have for certain contents and allowances for services and different content types, including applications and games. So there are cloud services coming up from device manufacturers, but also in the future I see mobile operators pretty much offering their unique, beneficial integrated cloud service to an end consumer, also to reduce the international data traffic. Now, I think also that third-party providers will improve very much their offerings to deliver such solutions. And yeah, so this is one part. But I also see that Facebook is developing also to a kind of a cloud service. There are rumors about integrating music services. There are already lots of applications and games on Facebook. So the communication part of it, which is a core asset of a mobile operator, needs to be integrated more with a service like Facebook, and needs to settle on viral communication, because if I tell you something about a new song or a new application, you can trust me or not, but your friends keep on telling you and will show you what is the next big thing in terms of application and music and movie, which is nice to listen to. So in essence, I believe that Facebook services, services which are in social and viral environments need to be integrated, and they increase communication and also media and content consumption, and also it goes to the cloud, pretty much.
Okay, excellent. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your views, valid views, your time, your contributions. I'm not sure if the protocol allows for questions, or do you move on? Questions in the audience?
Fawaz Basim Zain, Saudi. Question for Mr. Boller. Do you intend to develop your businesses into an MVNO model?
Actually, we do already since 10 years. In this particular case, we see the Universal brand as a very, very strong brand in the world, and we offer it to use the brand Universal Mobile to operators. There's a very low license fee related to this, but we sit together and position a consumer and product offering as a prepaid service, most probably, in the market. This is what we've done in Morocco. Here in the region, it is also possible. It's a good way. But of course, we are not alone. We will never get an MVNO license ourselves. So we more see it as an MVNO brand that could go together with an operator in the region. Nevertheless, we encourage also operators to create their own music service and link it to a tariff. So this also does not mean that it's just Universal Music. We are partnering with all music labels in the world, including all the local and Arabic labels. But a music service could be called Backstage. We have a similar service live with QTEL, for example, in Qatar, Wataniya, and Kuwait, and Navras in Oman. So this music service is called Backstage, and it's a music offering, and will also develop into direct-to-consumer offering with a tariff.
Yeah, that when it comes to content development, and especially locally oriented content, how much thinking there is among the operators that they become facilitators? There is one issue of delivery platforms that can be procured internationally from big technology vendors. But when it comes to that piece, which is locally oriented, more close to local taste and cultures, how long operators will expect that to come from outside? Or do you think that they can be more proactive, have local incubators, so that they can have more of a say in the direction of future evolution of these services?
I'll I'll start by saying that operators in the UAE, for one, have given this full thought. This is the reason that DO has created ANAU, which is a portal also encouraged and sponsored by the UAE government to provide a platform for local content generators, okay? And I did say labels and individuals alike, to have a forum where they can publish their content and where they can have their content also appreciated and rated by the local community. So the idea is to create the right forum, okay, not necessarily as an operator, but as a separate entity that is seen as an open environment, allowing any consumer, whichever operator they're connected to connect to this environment and publish their content, have it seen by as wide an audience as possible, and have it rated, appreciated by that audience, and eventually shared on different social networks outside the realm of the region itself.
If you ask me, as an operator, are we interested in developing content ourselves? And the answer is no. Are we interested in very much, there's the environment that DO is operating in, which is, facilitating the platform and obviously the reach to the customers? Yes, the question becomes one of scale, once again, especially with local content. Just to be able to, once again, commercialize it and monetize it. The world is a very big, small place, and trying to continuously find niches with partners would make sense. And that's something that we would like to be involved in and facilitate the reach to the end user. Now, will that be the case? I don't know. I think you probably end up with a convergent type environment where some of the operators like DO are creating the ecosystem themselves to be able to leverage and to be able to own more of the value chain to the customer. And it's one model that we're watching closely if it makes sense, while we're trying other models as well.
I think it's interesting what MBC did. They have, MBC is a big TV network in the region, and they have created a music label a couple of years ago. So here they entered into a pretty much new market to generate local content and to support it pretty much. What we do, for example, as Universal Music with Orange in France is also, we have created an indie label completely supported by Universal Music as a joint venture. So here we, together with the operator, through its media channels, we source new talents. So I pretty believe that for a big operator, if it is a strategic decision, it's a good path to take when it comes to music. But there are other contents in the markets as well, like applications and movies, and here it's even getting more difficult, I believe.
One more question.
Hi, Zach Mrad, CEO, Eurosco Mobility. We develop mobile apps. We're based in LA and Beirut. We're having, you guys somewhat answered part of my question, but in the region, in order for mobile apps to gain appropriate exposure, there's a strong need for operators to assist and help mobile developers, mobile app developers, in order to reach the market fast enough. So are you guys heading towards that direction, basically the support and giving exposure to local mobile app developers in order to create content for the local market?
Okay, well, there are two different ways of looking at this, and we are pursuing both paths, actually. We are, for one, creating the right platform that is open and allows for mobile apps creators to publish their apps on our platform, just as they do on an Apple App Store or on an Android market today. that is creating the right technical platform on the one hand. On the other hand, also encouraging other platform providers to come in to our own facilities and making sure that they're connected to our network, that they get first-hand access to all of our customers. And on the other hand, it is seeking mobile apps providers and pushing their apps forward onto our existing platform and onto our networks. So in short, yes, we are very much looking at this. The challenge really at this point is finding the apps that are relevant both to a wide customer base and to the region in particular.
From our side, if the capex and opex is minimized, and once again, if there's an environment, say, of revenue share, which is what we are doing right now with a lot of the developers, then we are quite open to it. It's not something, you know, that we would pick and choose, because it's all incremental at the end of the day. The challenge becomes if we have to make a capex investment, especially, then you do go down the road of asking questions about the return and the penetration and the, you know, uptake and all of that. So at this stage, it's very much, I mean, we haven't gone down the road of obviously developing our own environment, but we, for example, have just recently launched our own app store for BlackBerry, which is, you know, applications with developers, with third-party developers for BlackBerry, which is quite open. It's pure revenue share. We have put the platform together, which, you know, is seeing some good uptake. So there are different models that we are trying out, and as I said at the start, to be honest, we're trying out a few of them to see which one sticks, which one is right, and which one is relevant for our market and the different segments. We don't have the answer yet, so it's a little bit of a work in progress, and that's the truth of it. It's an area that we just need to experiment with.
Okay. I think in the interest of time, we have to start making room for the next topic on the agenda. Thank you very much. Thanks again to the panelists, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.